Now, down in Dallas, there was a young lady that was sexually attacked. She said rape. I don't know how they in the information it says it was rape, but I think the attacker characterized it as something different. So let's talk a little about that. I don't want to lay it out. I'll let you and Lori kind of get into that, and then I'm going to give my opinion.
Well, the young lady's 16 years old, and apparently she was babysitting for the child of the attacker, the alleged attacker, and she alleged that she was assaulted several times. I don't know, 3 or 4. There's a conflict between what she says and what he says, but she alleges that she was assaulted, and before she could testify, she was killed by the individual, and he has alleged that she was going to recant her testimony and you know the circumstances. I don't know if you how much detail you want to get into, but the circumstances is that he actually went online, you know, put up a fake name, you know, started communicating with her on Facebook, texting, etc., trying to get her to give her side of the story, you know, or he says admit that she was lying. And at a certain point, you know, he figured he would make contact with her, and he went and met up with her, said she was scared initially, and then eventually she got in the car, and then he took her away and killed her based on what he, you know, quote unquote says his demons, you know, made him do. So I think the issue that you're trying to get at is as tragic as the entire story is, we have to have some sort of clarity on the dangers of this technology situation, because at this point, you know, we've talked about, you know, lack of communication and, you know, minor things, you know, kids being more dependent on that as opposed to verbally communicating. But at a certain point, it can also become dangerous. And
the other thing, and I'm going to bring you in here, Bert, the other thing that I thought was amazing, he said that she had her phone number on Facebook.
Yeah.
Her phone number was on her Facebook page, and that's the way he was able to reach out. And
he checked with. He had this story that he was putting out, that he wanted to check with her to prove that she was lying about him raping her. She's 16 and he's 30.
Right.
And so he says he has this elaborate story about how he says, my mind was messed up, but I went after her to try to prove, because I hated being falsely accused, and it messed up my life. It caused me all these problems. I lost so much because she accused me of rape, and I couldn't get a job because she says I raped her 4 times. Would you give somebody a job? You know, he goes through all of this thing, and then it turns out. So he says he recorded her. He wanted to get a recording of her saying something that was at variance of what she told the police, and that she it was 4 times. She says she told the police it was 2 times or something. You know, different variances of the story. But the thing is that this reporter interviewed him in jail, and he's telling the reporter all of this, and that he said, "Well, why would you bring a gun to meet her, and get her in to voluntarily come to the van?" He says, the reporter kept asking him, she just walked in the van? You walked after you did all this to her? She walked in, and yes, she volunteered, came in the van, but you had a gun. Yes, I had the gun, but I always carried a gun. You know, that's what he said. So then he says, well, why would you take it down to the river? You know, it says, well, I just wanted to be peace and quiet where I can talk to her, get it honest. Well, make a long story short, it was a horrific story.
Yes.
Where he is saying that he was really out of his mind, and he didn't know what he was doing. It was just something, so much pressure on him. He didn't have a father, he said. So the way he grew up, and now he understands why people will be after him. So he never really fully explained why he killed her. You know, so it's the same story.
I mean, the thing that I found so disturbing about it was the first, if parents doesn't tell you you need to be on Facebook monitoring what's going on with your kids, this talks about that issue right then and there to the fact. And that we need to be able to limit the amount of information that is on Facebook, and then it needs to be some type of verification process so that people don't have all of these different accounts and we don't know who we're dealing with. because not only is he able to use the system for that, we have predators that are online,
Right.
in utilizing these methods to get at young people and stuff. I don't know why you would have your phone number as a public phone number. I'm not trying to blame her. I'm devastated that the young lady was murdered. He said he shot her so many times he couldn't even remember how many times he shot her. And in the other aspect of it was that he stood on her throat. While she was down on the ground, she asked him, "Why did you do this to me?"
Yeah.
And he stood on her throat.
Wasn't that compelling? Wasn't that so sad? The reporter says, "Well, what did she say after you shot her?" Well, his name was Wish.
Wish, yeah, that was his nickname.
He says, "Why, Wish? Why?" And no answer.
And he talked about, I started to take her somewhere to get her some help, but then it took over again. My mind just went and took over again. So I mean, when I look at this situation down there, it's a terrible thing. And you say, why would we talk about it? Because it's important. A young person lost their life, and it didn't have to happen. It speaks to the importance of we need to be more connected to our children, and especially on what's going on with Facebook and all these other sites and what people are doing. I don't, I mean, I'm really highly upset about this whole situation, and I don't. They do have a Facebook page, and I'll put the information up where you can actually go to her Facebook page and you can see the pictures of her and kind of get a feel for that. I think there was one person that made a comment, and again, this is where we have to understand the whole concept of what rape is about, because I think the person made a comment about it. Maybe it was her fault. And rape is not a sexual act; it's an act of violence. If you understood that, then you wouldn't have made that ignorant comment. So there is no way that I'm going to blame that young girl for causing this gentleman, who's an older adult, who's supposed to be showing some type of restraint in the situation, for excusing him from attacking a girl, no matter what she might have been wearing or whatever. You are the adult. And then you can see that obviously this person has some issues with him, because even after the situation happened, he still didn't exercise any restraint in murdering this child.
Yeah, I think there really needs to be a lot more conversation, and again, not to bash technology, but there really has to be more conversations about life, reality, counseling, etc. Because young people are young people. They may do things that they don't think about, like we talked about, putting stuff on Facebook that could cause you to lose a job, putting a telephone number on there. Pedophiles, contact people pretending to be, people that they're not. I mean, there's a whole lot of things that are dangerous that even if you have access to the internet, a child reading that is not going to get the same effect as sitting down and talking to a parent, an older sister, an uncle, a friend of the family, somebody who can actually verbally give them a back and forth conversation so that they can exercise critical thinking, comprehension, and exercise judgment in circumstances that are beyond their control.